All right, thank you, Tina, for the introduction. It's my great pleasure to be here and talk about the proton commissioning and dosimetry equipment that's needed for the Proteus One, the drding, and also for the pencil beam scanning. So thanks for the IBA for the invitation. So Bomber Health is a 3 health system which each system has about 3 to 4 linacs, which treating about 200 patients per day. So we have the Royal Oak, which is the main campus, which is famous for the research development for the first cone beam CT, ABC, and the rotation intensive modulation arc therapy. And also we have the 2 big centers in the Troy, Diabo, which contribute another patient populations here. So in terms of life in Michigan, we have very nice fall season and the summer, which is comparable to California, but we do have very tough winter when you're driving and it's snowing. So we do have a lot of activity like the snowboarding or ice fishing. The last 2 years are pretty mild, so we have the ice fishing like this, which is also the good spot. So Bomber Proton Center is the 26th clinical operational proton center in the United States, and 11 more in the constructions. So here's the treatment room to show you how the Proteus One works. We have the rolling floor, so make sure that everything will not be falling down to the second floor of the basement. And we do have a 6-way robotic couch to correct the patient position, which is critical for proton treatment. And also, this node is designed for the pencil beam scanning. We're able to paint or join any picture we want, so it shows the William Bomber log file with a black peak. Behind the scene, let's see. So we also do have a stereotech imaging system and also cone beam CT. So this part will be dropping down as a cone beam CT rotation, half gantry back and forth to get a 3D volumetric image, which is really important. And also have the oblique imaging crossfire to have a quick imaging modality for the proton system. So we have 3 modalities here. One is 220-degree compact gantry behind the wall and a new superconducting single cyclotron and a Philips ambience license, which is an add-on feature to compromise for to help the pediatric patients have a nice environment. Oops. So this is the basic timeline for Bomber Proton project with the board of director approval in 2014. We signed the contract and the groundbreaking in 2015. So we have a little bit delay in the groundbreaking because cold weather in Michigan in winter, so we cannot dig the hole. So however, everything on the informing structure is pretty on schedule, and we treat the first patient about 2.5 years after the groundbreaking. So the total commissioning and acceptance take about 7 weeks. We compact the acceptance test and commissioning all together by the understanding to the Proteus One and also the trust between the vendor and also the users. So this is the major timeline from the groundbreaking construction in the middle. That's the timeline joining Bomber, and also last being finished in 2016. The gantry drop A, cyclotron drop A, installation finished, gantry start rotation. So this is one of the milestones where the proton is able to shoot into the ISO center, and this is June 2017. We're able to treat our patients with complex shape of the target. So in terms to achieve this such a nice journey or the timeline, so we have a nice collaboration with all the vendors, including the IBA proton, IBA dosimetries, and also research team, Elector, which has a Mosaic OIS integration, and also we do have the independent physics check from MD Anderson and IROC, as well as the Chicago Proton Center. So this is a basic timeline how we achieve that. So the trick part, you want to use double your shift to acquire as much as a beam data once you have the stable proton beams. So at this moment, we accept the beam optics, which is the logs profile for the pencil beam scanning. Using the same setup, we continue to collect the data for the TPS modeling. So once you go through this milestone, it's pretty much we have a pretty good confidence that the beam model and the machine performance is correct. So then the second week, third week will be focused on the imaging safety and positioning acceptance test, and while we're doing the modeling for the race stations. So race station will give us the model back in this 4th week, 1 week after we submit the data, and then we start the double shift again to validate the beam model TPS and integration for the OIS. And also at that time we irradiate our TLD from the IROC to make sure our output is okay. And at this moment, this last 2 weeks, actually the buffer times, we're working on the therapist training to make sure all the team are the state of art for this new machine, and do the protocol design for the end-to-end test, and invite our independent physics coming here to have a secondary check our commission report. So that's also give us extra confidence as to how our commission process is doing. So if we compare the photon commission and the proton commission, there is two major components. In photon, you have MLC, which positioning, leaf design, and the limitation of the speed plays a key fact of your modulation capabilities, which for proton spot scanning, your spot shapes, size, positioning, and energy accuracy is the time to determine whether you're able to draw such a nice picture or not. So in terms of measurement, you want to really have a real characteristic of a circle shape, symmetric shape of your spot to make your life easier, especially for the physics, to make sure the beam model is not a challenge anymore. So in terms of beam data collection for Ray Station, we have 271 measurements to submit to the Ray Station. The first one is energy integration depth using the Stingray. The second is absolute dose calibration with the different energies, and the spot profile positioning using links with upstream, lower stream to calculate SAD. And last step is range shifter model, which is not required for Ray Station modeling, but you have to collect that for the beam data validation. So here's the experiment we use in the bomber. So from the top to down, Stingray for the Bragg peak chamber, links just for spot characteristic and position check, and isocentric using SRV 100, and absolute dose symmetry with the PPSO5, Zebra for the range verification, and the matrix 1 for the 2D detector. Daily Q is using matrix 1 as well. So this kind of the minimum requirement for the dosimetry equipment that you need for commissioning the PBS system. If you look at all the names, so this is zooms. So if you have a chance to go to San Diego Zoom. So this, I don't know who will name this device like the Stingray, Lynx, Zebra, but it is pretty nice ideas. So the first one, most important one is using links. So we use that for the commission acceptance. That's the requirement. It has a large field of view, more than 40 by 40. So we can collect all the 30 by 30. So we can collect all different spot position and the profile and analyze to get a nice impression of the analyze for the machine performance. So this is one of the engineers mounts the links on the gantry so it can rotate through the gantry and check the spot position and the profiles. So we recommend this to use in the monthly QA when you combine the Sphinx, and you can use for the daily QA. So once you start measuring, you can plug the gantry versus the energy throughout this process one. As you see, the shape of the spot size and also the distribution is pretty nice. So you don't have too much deviation from your spot size, which makes you give the physicist a peace of mind that the machine performance is correct, and beam model will not be that challenge. It may be a bit challenge for the multi-room center. You have to average out the different gantry spot shape to make the determination at the preparation stage that which kind of the beam model you want to use. So what's the most important part is the gantry rotation. As long as we know the huge gantry 200 turns Proteus Plus, you might have a huge saggings. So you use couch to correct that. The good part is you have an X-ray tube in the nozzle, so you can image the patients using beam eye view. But however, in the Proteus one, you don't have the X-ray tube in the nozzle, so you lose this critical component. But however, in the compensate, we have the flat panel drop in to have the volumetric combing CT to compensate the loss of the beam eye view. To do the isocentric check, we use film at the beginning, but however, the XRV 100 is really helpful to determine where the isocentric check between different energy layers. So this is a study we published 2 years ago about the different energy selections, and we image with oblique imaging crossfire for the XRV, put in the ISO center, shoot the beam angle through different gantry angle, also switch energy layer. So that gives you a very valuable and numerous data for your machine performance. Instead of using hundreds of film for the start shot as traditional what we did, now we can finish that QA in about 30 minutes to an hour. And also, stereo actually is a new device which we use in the ProTest 1 because we want to collect enough charges for each spot. So stereo has a 12 cm diameter, which is very design user friendly. You have the 3 pin in here to help to align horizontally on the water surface. So this is going to be really critical for your setup. And also 12 cm diameter helps you to collect all the charges wherever your pin size is bigger or small. So this is the integral adapters we collect for our ProTest 1 for different energy layers. So absolute dose is using the PBCO5 since we are single cycle charge. And we make sure the user for the future ProTest 1 is calibration uses 500 volt to minimize the recombination effect. And also this PBCO5 will be used for the commissioning, for the absolute dose calibration. Daily QA you may need to integrate with the Sphinx, and also monthly QA, annual QA to cross-check your calibration curve. So this is a 10 by 10 field we use with a 2.5 spot spacing, 1 MU per spot, and generate the PLD file so we can deliver on the ProTest 1 machine. So measurement times between the flat region of the PDD, so from 2.5 for the low energy and ACM to the high energy. So this is kind of the, depending on the energies. And one of the important devices you really need to have in the proton center is a Zebra. This kind of items makes your life much easier to measure the PDD bragg peak much quicker. Instead of the portable water tank measure the PBCO5, now you can just set up the Zebra and measure one time you got the range for your system. So the good part is you have to measure all the immobilization device, for example, couch, mask, alpha cradle if you use that, or you use locking system or vacuum lock. So this kind of the immobilization device introduce additional range error you have to characterize before you treat the patient, and this device will help reduce significantly about your commission time. However, the drawback is it's pretty expensive. It's about a house in my Louisiana house. So every time, you don't want to use this device every day because if you get jobs there, you lose the house. So, but this is compensate for that. All right, so ProTest 1 user you might have will receive the Matrix 1, which is a new design compared to the MPT, which is a P+ version. So the difference with the gap is from 2 mm to 1 mm, the volume from 32 to 16. So this is all the technical difference why we have to use the Matrix 1 for ProTest 1, because we have the pulse beam single cycle charge. So this is a recommendation from the IBA. For photon double scattering, you can use MRT, is a traditional one. For the pencil beam scanning is high dose rate, you use a Matrix PT. For ProTest 1, which is pulse beam, you have to use a Matrix 1. Just make sure you have get the correct dosimetry equipment for that. Oops. So for the patient QA, pretty everybody uses the same standard. We measure 3 layers. For distal end, you check the energy's accuracy. Middle point checks your output accuracy, and also for the proximal, you check your furnace. So this is a different case from the brain and prostate. So our criteria is 95% passing criteria for the 3% 3 mm. The output is smaller than 3% is our criteria. So the future we are working on the Sphinx, which is used for the daily, weekly, and also monthly. What that means is you can design the pattern, and also you have the different the wedges to measure the range accuracy, and you have to program the spot and software for the MyQ is able to calculate it for you, which saves you tons of time during the physics queue. Otherwise, you have to rotate change different links or change different energies to measure in and out, going back and forth to do several measurements. But everything will be done one time or twice using this setup. So we are working on this commissioning and may implement in the next couple of months for our daily QA. So in terms of the goal of the commissioning, so we're not just working on the beam data, working on the collect the beam data. So we're also working on all the workflow from the treatment planning system, your ORS, depends on you're using the Mosaic and RREAR, to find out what's your limitation, why you need to do that. Because different proton machine has very different characteristics. For example, Hitachi, Sumitomo, IBA variant, all different. And also 3 ProTest 1 is very different as well. So triple, we have the traditional C230, but we do have the new superconducting single section. The dose rate is very different. And that's the things we need to understand before you do the commission. Or during the commissioning process, the physicists and the clinical team need to understand what's the limitation for your machine of your environment. So to do this validation, we have set up a different protocol to simulate different treatment sites: prostate, brain, chest wall, CSI, all kinds of uniform dose, a different range, different modulation, different field size, to see what's your limitation on your TPS side. This is a measurement from Zebra to see how accurate our Bing model for the range detection for the TPS. And also the range shift commission is one major part to treat the brain and the head and neck cases. Depends what your contract is with the vendor. You might have a 70 MeV as minimum energy, you might have 100 MeV, which represents 7 cm depths. So which means if you want to treating the patients with shallow depths, you might use the range shifter to treat the brain and also head and neck cases. For 70 MeV, you have to use range shifter 4 cm to achieve this goal. But there's two golden standard rules for range shifter commissioning. You want to minimize your air gap and also avoid potential collisions when you use this setup. When you rotate the gantry, you might have potential hit the patients due to the clearance issue. At Pennsylvania, what we did is build the U-bolus around the patient body, so it was consistent, minimize the air gap. But however, introduce extra hardware into the proton workflow is really difficult and also time-consuming. So, but now more and more people using drifting into this continuous range shifter model for the Proteus One system. So this is a spot size plot from different air gap. As you see, with a different range shifter at different air gap, the spot size increased a lot throughout the different air gap because the scatter in the air. So the good part is when you minimize the air gap, you have a better modulation, which means you have a better treatment quality for your brain and head and neck patients. While you increase the spot size, you will lose this such modulation capabilities. So that's why we need to keep as smaller as 15 cm or less for practical practice. And also, what we found in the race station for the Pennsylvania algorithm is that you don't have a very good agreement with measurement versus your output when you increase the air gap, because the secondary proton scatter is not well modeled in the range shifter. But however, the V6, you do have the Monte Carlo algorithm, so that's a highly recommend to use that for the clinical practice. There's also challenges in the Pinnacle race station, also different platforms. We want to make sure all the connection for the different platform interface is correct and also the bug-free. We do have some issue with QA field gantry override issue, which is solved in the Phoenix mode right now. And also we do have some small bugs with MU rounding between the Mosaic IBA delivery and also the stop and resume treatment delivery. So although this is kind of small stuff, but it's really important to solve it before you start the clinical operation. So this is one of example, one of the Proteus One integration with Mosaic doesn't work quite well in the stop and resume treatment while the machine stops and you cannot resume from the Mosaic part. This is mainly because of the blend golf algorithm from the synchro section delivery is not implemented into the Mosaic OIS, which is causing resume, you skip one layer or a couple of the energy scan. So that's one potential safety issue. So this has already opened the bug from the Mosaic, and also IBA is working on with the Mosaic team to implement the safety issue. And also we do have a very comprehensive radiation safety program that we're able to detect neutron dose inside the treatment room. So as you see, each treatment, you can see the smart dots here to 5 to 6 patients per day for the currently. So now you also see some of the crazy stuff here because we are doing some physics QA and experiments. You will see the high neutron dose inside the treatment room. And this is a diagram that also help the manager to study whether we are fully use the cyclotron or not in terms of clinical operation. So in summary, so this is a kind of the screenshot you might need for a reference to use to commission the Pennsylvania algorithm, which the PBS nozzle and the proton system, and the Matrix 1 was used for the Proteus One machine. So let's see. So take-home message for you is really important is, the first of all is make sure you calibrate your absolute dose with the negative 500 volts. So we use the new Matrix 1 for your Proteus One because it's single cyclotron. And appropriate dosimetry package is also needed or cross-calibrate with your photon side to make sure the device is working before you actually start commissioning. The most important thing is design the clinical workflow and integrate your product system into your current full-time workflow to make sure all the team are on the same page. So let's see. Oops. And also acknowledge for everybody, so not only the vendor, also the team for working on this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.